Hello and welcome to Tech Raven. I'm Nigel, and today I'm afraid I've got to do one of those negative YouTube videos. Now, I hate doing these kind of videos where I have to slam into a company and criticize them or their products because I quite often get berated by the fanboys of said companies. Several months ago, I got absolutely berated by Hasselblad fanboys for criticizing their beloved system, but my findings on that just happen to be true. So don't shoot the messenger, because I'm just putting across what I find and my thoughts and feelings on it, and also what happens to be true because it's all over the internet. Now, in this instance, I'm going to be criticizing Canon's RF series lenses, and for good reason. It's all about the build quality of their new RF series lenses. Now, I'm not a sycophantic YouTube reviewer, never have been, and I never will be. Again, I don't make money from these. I'm not like one of those Instagram influencers or YouTubers that's got hundreds of thousands of subscribers and they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars on monetization from their YouTube videos, because those guys, I find they're just too sycophantic. They're scared to say anything negative about any given piece of equipment. It could be a lens, and if they don't like something about it, like they don't like the way the ring turns, it will only be something small like, oh, it's not quite as smooth as I would like it to be, etc., etc. They're never going to really slag it off and say, this is, guess what, an absolute plastic piece of crap that is fit for the bin. They're never going to say that, because those manufacturers will never send them products again, and they won't have a YouTube channel, and they won't make any money. Now, for me, this kind of has a knock-on effect, because if these guys keep saying great stuff about inferior products, most of these companies these days, not only Canon, are run by accountants, and those accountants are thinking, how can we build these products cheaper whilst also putting the price up at the same time? So when any given YouTuber says something great about a lens, then several years later, when the replacement lens comes out or another lens comes out, the manufacturers are thinking, well, you know what? Instead of making it out of that tough NASA-grade polycarbonate plastic that's got some kind of rubber texture in with it, so it's more inclined to bounce or flex rather than crack, let's use that cheap, brittle plastic that's got little air pockets in it, so if they drop it, it's just going to crack and break. Let's do that. Let's not use so much metal. Let's use more plastic. And in some lenses, including Canon's, let's not use glass elements. Let's throw in a couple of plastic ones in there just to shave money off it. But we'll use the excuse that, oh, we're making them lighter, when they're not. And at the end of the day, the lens costs less to build in parts and manufacturing costs, yet they seem to always put the price up a little bit as well. And it's the customer that always gets screwed over with an inferior product. And then they send that product to the YouTuber, knowing that they're not going to criticize it. They know they can keep pushing and pushing and pushing on this. Said YouTuber will then give it a good review again. And then the next time round, they're thinking, hey, guess what? We didn't get criticized last time. Let's build it even cheaper and put the price up again and see what happens. And guess what? Nothing happens, because the YouTubers continue to give praise in these inferior products. Me, I don't give a crap. I really don't. I'm just going to tell it how it is. Now, with regard to Canon's RF series lenses, as you can see, I'm a Canon user. I've got a couple of Canon R6 Mark II bodies. I've got the L series 100mm macro. I've got the 70-200 f4. I've got this little 16mm here, which is not the best lens in the world, but it's a budget lens. And I'm actually filming on a Canon R6 Mark II with a 24-100 f4 L series lens as well. So I've got a lot of stuff, but am I going to say it's great? No, I'm not. The build quality, these bodies, they're a little bit plasticky. The lenses feel plasticky. I'm certainly not a fan of this. You know, what's all that about? Whatever happened to internal zoom? Can't stand that. And it's just, they're plastic, plastic, plastic throughout. And that seems to be the way they are going. Now, anybody that's my age will remember back in the 80s, the Canon FD series lenses that you would put on a Canon F1, they were built like hand grenades. They were absolutely rock solid. Now, back in the day, I used to shoot a lot of football matches at the at White Hart Lane for Spurs and at the old Highbury Stadium for Arsenal. I would shoot those for some local North London newspapers, and I'd be down there on the touchline with either a Canon F1 with a 300-2.8 FD lens on it. I had Nikons as well, Nikon F3 with Nikkor 300mm f2.8 lenses. Those lenses were absolutely rock solid, metal through and through. Even the lens hoods were metal. So if I was by the goal and a ball came along and smashed into the camera, nothing happened. They could stand that kind of professional punishment. These days, with modern lenses like this, if a football gets smashed into a lens, the lens is just going to break into 1,000 pieces. It is not going to withstand any kind of abuse like that. Now, a friend of mine sent me a text message a couple of days ago about this article that's on Peter Pixel. I'll put a link in the description below so you can read it for yourself. And it's about a guy that bought the Canon RF 200 to 800 f6.3 to f9 lens. Now, I don't think this is an R lens. In fact, I'm sure it isn't, but it still cost a couple of grand. It's not cheap, but it is just one piece of plastic garbage. Now, this guy's lens, it actually broke in half. As you can see here on this picture, I've got some pictures. I'm going to bring them up to show you. The lens actually snapped in half. Now, how did this happen? The guy said he just had it in his bag. It was a padded bag and it was well protected in this bag. And when he went to take it out of the bag, this had happened. It literally broke in half, snapped right in the middle at this joint. And you can see that it's just plastic on this joint. There's nothing strong here at all. It's just cheap plastic and there's no surprise that it broke. Now, this isn't an isolated incident. This is happening a lot with not only this lens, but many of Canon's L series RF lenses. They're just breaking left, right, and center. Now, recently I bought a Canon RF 100 to 500 millimeter L series lens. This is a lens that sells for about £2,800 in the UK. I had it for a couple of days and sent it back. The reason I sent it back, and just before I tell you that, I'm just going to show you this picture here, because I was looking on eBay for a second-hand one, and you can see here, this is the front extending section of a Canon RF 100 to 500 millimeter L series lens, and you can see it's cracked. Now, this was on eBay, and it actually sold for about £1,700. Now, I sent him a couple of messages for eBay saying, how did the crack happen? And he said, honestly, I really don't remember. I just took it out of the bag one day to use it, and there was the crack. Now, this doesn't bode well because he doesn't even remember how it happens. He said, I didn't bang it on anything. Nothing happened to it. So what I did, I phoned up an official Canon authorized camera repair center in the UK, and I sent them this picture. And I said, look, I'm thinking of buying this lens. How much would it cost to repair? And they came back about a week and a half later and told me that there's two options. They can either bond it, which means they would just squirt glue into the crack, clamp it together, and that would fix it. But it wouldn't look great. So that's one option. That was going to be about £60 because they were just going to squirt some glue in there and glue it together. The second option was going to be about £500 because they were going to have to get a spare part from Canon. Now, this lens I've got here, it's an EF version of the lens, but it still has the extendable section. But this is the EF 100 to 400, which I bought after sending back the RF 100 to 500, and I'll explain why in a minute. So this extendable section, the crack here that you can see, is just on the edge, but on the RF version, not on one of these. So this bit here would be a spare part that would have to be bought from Canon. Now, just for that one little plastic section with no lens elements, it was £100 for essentially a plastic toilet roll tube. Now, that's not the end of it because the labour is going to be close to £300. Why? Because all the lens elements have got to be removed, the lens has got to be stripped down, all the lens elements have got to be put back in, then it's got to be calibrated to make sure nothing is out of alignment, otherwise you might get some soft spots, and then the firmware's got to be reinstalled and so on and so forth. So the whole thing, just to repair this tiny crack, was close to £500, and it would have been about 3 weeks turnaround time. So that kind of put me off buying one of those, but I did buy one new and I had it for a few days, and I went up to Snetterton Race Circuit in Norfolk in the UK to photograph some superbikes and some like car type stuff. Now, the reason the RF 100 to 500 was no good for me personally was because again, this is the EF version, but the RF has got this tripod collar. You can loosen this and then you can turn it around so you can basically go from portrait to horizontal. Now, with the RF version of this, when it's actually mounted on a monopod, no matter how tight you tighten this, it's not tight enough. So it still actually slips. So it only goes to about that tight. So, you can actually move it. Yeah, it's probably about there. So it feels quite stiff, but it still moves. Whereas this one, it actually locks down. So the problem with the RF 100 to 500 mm L series lens is when it's mounted on a monopod using this collar, it doesn't lock down solid enough. Now, anybody that's ever used a lens like this on a monopod knows that you actually lean into it. It's almost like you're pushing the monopod into the ground to get stability. You can't just hold it light because it will still move around. And if you're doing a panning shot at a race circuit of a car or a bike, as it goes by, you're pushing it into the ground and you're leaning into the camera. And then as you're pushing the shutter, and I had my camera set on like 5-6 frames per second, so it's like as I was going past. But as I was leaning, the camera would go whoop, and the horizontal would just go blimp like that. As I'm panning, it would just go like that because it wouldn't lock down, and all the shots were getting ruined. Now, I don't know why Canon designed that RF lens in a way that you can't lock this down really tight. It could be because it's an all plastic construction. Everything on the RF lens, not only this bit, but this, everything you can see is plastic. The only bit that's metal is the lens mount on the back and maybe a few little internal parts, but for the most part, it's plastic throughout, even though the lens is about £2,700. Now, I suspect because it's plastic underneath here, if you tighten that too much, it might crack the body underneath. I could be wrong on that, but that's just a theory that I have as to the reason that the RF collar on the RF 100 to 500 doesn't lock down solid, which renders it useless for certain types of panning when you got it on a monopod. So that was one reason that I sent it back, that it was just no good for that. And the second reason is the whole thing is plastic. Now on this EF version, the extendable section is plastic, but it feels like a better quality plastic than on the RF one. On this, it feels quite solid. It doesn't move. On the RF one, when I flick it, it just sounds thinner and not as good. And also on the RF, this is plastic. This, all the rings, everything's plastic. Whereas on this one, once this is down, this is metal, this is metal, this is metal, 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 metal. It's metal throughout. And yes, it's heavier, but I like that. It feels good and sturdy and strong. Now, that's the main reason I sent the RF version back, because it just felt plastic and I thought, hang on, this just doesn't feel like it's going to last. It feels like it's going to break, especially when I've seen 3 or 4 cracked ones or broken ones on eBay that have been sold for parts or repair. And this is a common occurrence with the RF series lenses. So that's why I sent it back for a refund. Now, again, that was about £2,800. These lenses, the EF version, they go in the UK for between £800 and £1,100 for a really good condition one, which is less than half the price of a new RF version, and it's all metal, solid, much better. Now, I've watched several YouTube videos comparing this to the RF one before I decided to get a second-hand one of these, and everybody says optically there's no difference, and there isn't. Because I've tried them both, I've done lots of shots, and there's absolutely no difference optically between the two. They're identical. I personally even found that the IBIS in this lens, the image stabilization, was a hair better than the image stabilization in the RF version, and a couple of YouTubers have said the same thing. So for me, this is actually a better lens. It's got better IBIS, identical image quality, it's made of metal for the most part, so it's a lot better, and you can pick one up for £1,000 UK as opposed to having to spend £2,700 on the RF version, which is inferior in so many ways, especially with regard to build, where it is just plastic fantastic. Now, I know it just sounds like I'm having a dig and I'm on my soapbox, but the thing is, it's like, come on guys, get your head straight. If you buy a lens and you feel it's just a plastic piece of crap, don't accept it. It's a lot of money. Just send it back. And if everybody rebels and everybody sends back all this crap and stops buying it, then these companies will just end up with warehouses full of cheap plastic lenses, and they're going to have to up their game the next time round. And you know, that's basically where I'm coming from with this whole thing. So I'm not criticizing Canon just for the hell of it. I use Canon equipment. Like I said, I've got a couple of their camera bodies, quite a few lenses. I've even got the flash guns of Canon. I've got all this stuff. Does that mean it's brilliant? No. I mean, it's like the bodies feel a bit plasticky. They're lightweight. The lenses feel plastic and lightweight. And I know Canon say, oh, we aim to make it lighter. Why? I'd rather have better quality than just lightweight. I think this whole lightweight thing is just a big excuse. Now, again, this is just my thoughts and feelings on it, but the way I see it is, I think Canon want you to drop these lenses because they know they'll break, and guess what? You'll have to buy another one. They would rather you break it and buy another one. The accountants will absolutely love that. The worst culprit for this is Apple with their iPhones. Anybody that's ever bought an iPhone will tell you that it comes in this box, very nice box, but I think it's been very cleverly designed in that when you take the lid off, it's kind of vacuum sealed. You get this, and it's quite hard to pull it off because of the air. And then when you do get it off, the iPhone is right on the top of that box with the gubbins underneath. And where the iPhone sits, it sits in this little plastic tray that's got these little scoopy ski ramp almost bits at the edge of it. So when you pull that lid off and you get this air suction and you have to pull it to the side, what happens? The phone drops. And Apple are probably praying that you're outside on the pavement and it drops and breaks before you've even plugged it in and used it for the first time. That's what they want. So you can buy another and another and another. I read recently that the Apple sales figures for their iPhone is heading to about 8 billion or something like that, which is one for every person on the planet. But that doesn't mean every person on the planet has got one. It just means people in the so-called civilized Western world have all bought 10 over the years because they either break, it's not just about updating them, they break. Just look on eBay and see how many there are with broken screens. I mean, Apple did a great one several years back where they had glass not only for the screen, but glass on the back as well. So no matter which way you drop it, it's going to break. Accountants love that. And I'm sure Canon and other manufacturers, they just love their lenses to break because you're just going to have to buy another one and it's more money. And it's all about greed and how cheap they make it and how much more expensive they can make it. And I, for one, can't stand it. So I just wanted to put out there this video on the Canon RF series of lenses to stress that they're plasticky, they're not that well built, they're definitely going to break if you drop one. If you happen to be doing photography down at the Emirates Stadium and Martinelli or Saka puts a shot wide and it hits the camera, goodbye lens. It's just going to be busted. It's not like the old days. So I don't know what else to say about it. I just thought I'd bring this to your attention. But if you buy one, an expensive price, no matter what the RF lens is, it could be something for £1,000. It could be something for £4,000 or £5,000. If you feel in your heart of hearts that it's just built like plastic fantastic and it's not up to the quality, send it back for a refund. I mean, crumbs, you can buy brand new motorcycles for £4,000, which is about the same price of some of the RF lenses. And if you look at one and you look at the other and you think parts and manufacturing costs, something like this, it costs just literally dollars to make. I mean, there's just so much profit in it. It is obscene. Now, I would rather these manufacturers built with metal and it costs £10, £15 more in parts and manufacturing costs. But hey, guess what? Instead of selling it for £2,500, sell it for £2,500 plus £10 for the extra bit it cost you to make it with metal and better materials. Anyway, there it is. Rant over. Hope you enjoyed the video. Until the next one, bye for now.